Welcome to the Buckeye Local Schools Board of Education special meeting on Tuesday, September 20th. The time is 9:01. Roll call.
Siselic?
Here.
Barco? Gunkelman?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
Stahl?
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting agenda statement. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. At this special meeting, the Board of Education will discuss any business that comes before the board members. Recommendation statement. The following recommendations have been identified for approval and as part of the consent agenda for this meeting. If a board member wishes to remove any items from this agenda for further discussion prior to taking action, please let either the superintendent or board president know. Approval of consent agenda. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the consent agenda of September 20th, 2016 as presented. Motion.
Motion.
Second. Roll call.
Siselic?
Yes.
Mattson?
Yes.
Gunkelman?
Yes.
Stahl?
Yes. Public participation. The public is invited to speak to any of the agenda items and other school topics at this time. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Direct questions will not be answered by the Board of Education members at this time. However, answers will be given at a later date as appropriate. You good?
Not
All right.
anyone else?
Superintendent's recommendations.
The first item, I want to give an update. I was hoping to have a recommendation this morning, but last night I was talking with the Buckeye Athletic Booster Club. They are moving towards getting themselves aligned with what the board has asked of them, but they have not made that official change, and they wanted to give us their policy with that change in there for us to see it and to recognize that at that point. So I talked to Mr. Tice last night, and I was hoping to get, he was going to send me the digital copy, and then that would be something that obviously we would see and be able to approve. At this point, I'm going to have to take that off as far as making a recommendation today. But it sounds to me from our conversation that they are aligning themselves with what the requirements were from the Board of Education.
So just taking off the athletic boosters and still doing the PTO and the band?
We're going to just hold off on all of them, just do it at one time.
So we're pulling A and we're going to put it on the October board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item B is the recognition of extracurricular organization. That also was something that, in conversation with Mr. Fike, that he's going to just hold off on that, and so I'm pulling that recommendation as well. I gave you some information in regards to the parents transporting and conversation. I think that kind of caused him to reflect and feel like it was maybe not something he was ready to get himself involved with, just with all of the liability issues and the potential there. He's going to go through the, make it a private group, but be a part of the Buckeye and hopefully run it through that way and not involve the school as an agent of doing that. So,
So are we pulling that one, or are we going to vote on it and vote it down?
we are going, I think we should just pull that since he did request that we just wait and that be something maybe in the future that he would come back to.
So this will not show up on the October.
No.
Number 9, new business.
This is just going to be the result of the Buckeye Board of Education. Consider the policies listed below as presented. Copies of the complete policies are attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix A. And that was item number 13223, standard-based school counselor evaluation. Item number 2, 7300, disposition of real property, personal property. Item number 3, 5200 is attendance. Item 4, 5112 is entrance requirements. And number 5 is 9270, equivalent education outside the schools or homeschooling. Numbers 2 through 5, again, were just updates to our current board policy, and number 1 is new in relationship to the evaluation system that the state has mandated us, similar to the OTES for teachers and the OPES for principals.
We have a motion.
I so move.
Second. Roll call.
Kogelman,
Yes.
Mattson, Sisselich,
Yes.
Stoll.
Yes. Personnel.
Certified personnel, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following personnel items as presented. Employment, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Amy Doty as the Integrated Technology Specialist. Ms. Doty will receive a 2-year contract and will pay $76,000 on a supervisor's contract,
Effective tomorrow?
effective tomorrow. Item number B, or item letter B, classified personnel, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following personnel items as presented. Employment, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Eileen Maley, Wednesday school detention monitor, effective September 21st, 2016. Ms. Maley will be paid by timesheet as a detention monitor, step 1, per the negotiated OPSI contract. Item number 2, employment, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Mary Martin as a elementary playground cafeteria paraprofessional, effective September 21st, 2016. Ms. Martin will receive a 1-year probationary contract and will be paid as a paraprofessional 3 hours per day at step 1 of the OPSI negotiated agreement. And item number 3, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Cheryl Snyder as an elementary playground cafeteria paraprofessional, effective September 21st, 2016. Ms. Martin will receive a 1-year probationary. Ms. Snyder should be there. Ms. Snyder will receive a 1-year probationary contract and will be paid as a paraprofessional 3 hours per day at step 1 of the OPSI negotiated agreement. Letter C is classified substitutes. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education approves the submitted classified substitutes to work on an as-needed basis for the 2016-17 school year as presented. And there's also the following are being removed from the sublist as cleaner laborer as presented. Item D is supplemental contract approval. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following supplemental contracts pending certifications as well as resignations, effective for the 2016-17 school year as listed. It was resolved by the Board of Education that the board has offered the positions to those employees of the district who are licensed and no such employee qualified to fill the position has accepted it. In addition, since no other qualified and licensed individuals applied pursuant to ORC 3313.53, the Board of Education approves the following supplemental contracts for a non-licensed individual. All supplemental contracts will be issued based on student minimum participation guidelines.
Do we want to remove Eric Fike?
Yes, thank you. And the rest would be as presented.
Do we have a motion on these with the changes that we've made?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mattson,
Yes.
Sisselich,
Yes.
Kogelman,
Yes.
Stoll.
Yes. Superintendent's information items.
Okay, so a couple things I wanted just to share with you today is the first one is the strategic plan. And basically what I think you received an email from one of the committees with Gabe Tutor and Facilities. I'm opening up, if you're interested in being a part of any of those committees, to please let myself know or let the person that's involved with those committees. What we are doing right now is our plan is that we met last week and we have identified the groups that our administrators will be working on, and now they're going to be putting together their teams. They're going to be looking at those different goal areas that were identified. Those goal areas were finance, student wellness, community engagement, school pride and spirit, facilities, and academic achievement. And so some of the committees I have more information on than others as far as where they've been progressing, because we've had those members that have been leading that have been a part of that, but there has been a change in some of those committees, so they're kind of starting from scratch in some sense. And so if there's an area that you're interested in being a part of, please let me know. They're going to go ahead and try and get a number of stakeholders from staff members, community members, in some cases even with students, if possible, to be able to review what we're doing. You remember we had the trifold of the strategic plan that we had in place, or that was presented in 2015 for 2015 to 2020. We're updating that, so a lot of the bullet points are going to be just going to be the key for us with the strategic plan is to now put down those items that would be identifying, as an example, under finance, develop and implement strategies that address revenue resources to ensure proper education for every child every day. We're going to now start to identify what that would look like to meet that goal, or to meet that bullet point. And so that those committees are going to work on ways that we can then say, here's how we're moving towards that goal under finance. We're going to have a person responsible for ensuring that it's carried out and by a certain date. And so, the key part of the strategic plan is to have a strategy in place to be able to identify our progress and to identify what the next step is and what is necessary. Obviously, it's a little bit of a fluid piece to it, but the idea is that we're trying to plan for the future and make some our best predictions of what we need to have done to be able to meet our strategic plan.
In our finance part of that, can we somehow get the financial advisory committee involved in that? I don't know in what shape or form, but something presented to them. I don't know if they're on, maybe one of the members on the committee or something like that, just so it's kind of fluid and we don't have different groups working towards the same thing.
And I think some of those goal areas would probably lead to having some of those types of committees, those offshoot committees that would help focus on specific goals within those goals, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of what the groups are going to come up with as a way that they can help to determine what the best way is to identify and meet the needs of the district.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if some of those things would be involving some of the different committees that we have or creating new ones.
I've agreed to be on the academic achievement
Okay.
committee, and I talked to Dr. Collins, and so
Good.
she's got it.
Do you have the background for that?
I think I do.
Okay. So going along with the strategic plan, I guess one of the things, the next thing I wanted to talk about was our facilities. And I don't really have a complete presentation, so to speak. It's more of a conversation to be able to say, how best are we going to be moving forward in regards to, I know we have that as part of our goal area on our strategic plan, but there's a lot of involvement, I think, that's going to be required from a number of different groups. Here's the things that I was going to kind of just talk about in regards to facilities. Obviously not going paper by paper, but we have a number of things that are out there that fall into this category, like our capital improvements for our athletic needs. And so looking at those as a piece, we have a couple different audits that have been done over the years that have talked about our maintenance programs and things that we need to be looking at. I have that information to be able to identify, our spending, our focus for what we should be having in regards to our HVACs. We have paving. We have the wall evaluations for the elementary building to have that redone with some improvements made there. There's a paving master plan in 2014. There's been a capital improvement study in 2013. How best, is that something you want to be brought before you every opportunity, or are you fine with us working with a capital improvements committee or a permanent improvements committee to identify the direction and have that be just part of our budget approval process, or how involved would you like to be on that scope of tackling that? This, if you're wondering, is what, I guess there was a computer program that we had implemented in 2013. This is 1 month of preventative maintenance.
That was what was presented to the financial advisory committee. That's why that was printed off, probably the only time it's been printed off.
Yeah.
And I I mean, going through that, I do not want all of us to go through that, because that's, you know, there's a leaky faucet in the girls' bathroom in high school, there's a smudge here, you know, and that's, unless that gets actually done, it never leaves. So I don't, and didn't we switch programs too? You know,
School dude.
yeah. So, and all that stuff, and this is just my opinion, what do you guys think? I would like a comprehensive list, and I'd like to hear about it and hear about the plan before it's implemented, but I don't necessarily want to be handed as a board part of that decision-making process. I think the facilities commission can handle that along with you and maintenance with enough notice. I mean, and some of those on the big items, you know, obviously we're following revised code guidelines on that, but on some of the bigger, I guess more public things, like, you know, as we get into the field, that's gonna be more of a board involved project, because we'll be updated every 7 or something like that. Like, you know, HVAC, just go through the process, and,
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion.
I guess I'd like to see like a 3 to 5 year like outline of where we're going and what our needs are, you
Which we're
know?
supposed to have, I mean, somewhere in there, because I was told we had that planned out, I don't know if it's in this. So the first one is the athletic one, so the little,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I've not seen a comprehensive plan. It's one of the things that I'm working towards. That's kind of, I guess, before I jump in, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't an expectation of how much involvement we were gonna have with.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, you were on the facilities commission, you know, Brian said we had a 5-year plan on facilities.
Yeah, I'd like to see, I don't wanna go through the daily stuff either, I think John's correct about that.
Yeah.
But at the career center, every month, the maintenance, chief of maintenance, does a brief update on facilities, less than 5 minutes, what he's working on, long-term projects, where he's at, and what the plans are. They don't talk about leaky faucets, they talk about renovations, remodeling.
The big ticket items.
Electrical wiring, you know, they did a huge renovation of the agricultural building. He made a quick presentation, a couple of slide pictures of what they've done, what they had to do, and what the costs were with it. And so the board was kept informed. Board doesn't make a daily decision on leaky faucets.
Okay.
Though they should be fixed.
Yeah, and then what to that is when we know about stuff that's not getting fixed, and we're being told it's fixed, then we should be able to say something about it.
Definitely.
It's systemic.
Right, right. And I see those as two separate areas.
Yeah,
One is
absolutely.
ongoing maintenance that comes up, and one is the planned bigger projects.
But that's, I think that's in our realm that we're supposed to do. I think that our maintenance person should be keeping us abreast of what's going on in the district.
Okay.
Facilities, why, as far as repairs, renovations, stuff that we decide as a board, we're going to give them paving, like a paving plan presentation.
Okay.
This is what we're found, probably, paving is a huge expense, and what are we going to do about it?
How about that 2-page PowerPoint? I mean, at every other meeting about what we did since the last meeting, what we have planned for the future.
And not by you, but by our maintenance person.
Yes.
Okay,
They have to take ownership in their areas.
sure.
I'd like to see it with all, I like the idea of the 5-year plan, or actually what we're planning on doing this year.
Okay.
I like the idea of all of our supervisors, the AD and also our transportation, if they have something to update us on. You know, if the buses, you know, I mean, in another year we're gonna need buses, or if we're having issues with getting parts or anything like that. The same thing with the athletic department, I'd like to know what's going on with them, what our needs are there.
Okay.
So we can plan ahead and we know what's happening.
And if we can I just rotate them, so not, we don't have them all at every meeting,
Okay.
like every other meeting or every third. And also if we can get a template for them to go off, so it's all pretty much the same if we work off a PowerPoint template where they can just put bullet points on that. I mean, rather than one of them reading something off.
Sure.
Just so
Keep
it's
it consistent.
consistent, easy to read.
4 different supervisors, maybe once, 4 months, 13.
Is 4 months good?
Or as needed.
Well, it could be as needed, and sometimes it's more relevant to hear from certain people at certain times. You know, in food service, we can probably listen to twice a year, I think, unless something happens. I think maintenance is probably something that we should hear a little more of, because there's so much going on, and same with athletics. You know, transportation should be probably another twice a year type deal.
I'm gonna throw in academics.
Academics, yeah, no, I mean, it'd be nice.
But
to
those
hear
are
from Dr.
as
Collins.
needed
Right,
when
right.
things change.
Well, Dr. Collins, probably every time we get results in, and we start digesting them and analyzing them, and then probably hear more often than not, because you got all those results, and you've got what we're doing new this year, you know, update on that, yeah, so.
And I do have the academic piece is scheduled already for the, I think for the remaining board meetings that are during school, that we have each of the schools are going to be presenting each meeting, not each school at each meeting, but there will be a school presenting, and then our student services, our curriculum will also be presenting some information throughout the school year, not every meeting necessarily, but that's, I think it's important for you to hear the things that we're doing and that you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis from the board position.
And that's,
There's a lot of
so
great
the
things.
building administrators are doing the presentation,
Yes.
Dr. Collins,
Yes,
that's awesome.
yes.
Yeah, and not to segue too much from what you talked about updates, years ago, before Jim was on board, probably when Jonathan was on board, we used to get the weekly updates from every administrator in the district, what's going on in their areas. And it was nice to see a little, just, the old days, they used to deliver to our house and by paper, which is not necessary.
Mhm.
But a little board, every administrator or supervisor gives you a little paragraph what's going on in their area once a week.
Sure.
And you can send it to us, so we know what's going on, but like I said, maintenance and transportation and the junior high and intermediate. Just, we don't need 20 pages, but
Right.
just a short little word.
Okay.
I would like to amend that to once a month.
Okay, well,
Because having been in a couple different school districts, once a week is kind of a bit much for
Yeah.
those folks.
and I'm okay with whatever, you just go get something, we're not getting any
Okay.
updates.
And I'll just have them send it to me, that we're getting one email versus
That's, yeah.
bombarded with different, okay.
And again, if we put a template out there for them that they just have to fill in, then it's for you, but just cut and paste and put it in one big document then. Because they all were different, and it was all printed out, and it was all hand delivered to our mailboxes, which is, I think, why we stopped it. And we asked for it electronically, but we didn't want, there's a lot of time that went in that, you know, the person delivering it.
You have to
Yeah.
expensively pay supervisor spending 6 hours delivering packages. The only good thing of it was that every once in a while somebody stuck some candy in the top envelope. So,
Yeah, that's, it doesn't happen with technology.
no, it doesn't, no, there's no candy bars.
Well, you can insert a picture of a Kit Kat bar there, that's
Yeah.
true, that's fine.
That's true.
Carolyn, do you remember if there was a 3 or 5 year facility plan in place?
There was.
Do you have a copy of that you could give to Kent?
Kent and I can, I mean, I know what Brian was considering the 5-year, and it was, he was trying to pigeonhole money into different areas. So that, for example, the bleachers, he had been putting away $100,000 a year to know that this year would be the year that would be done. So yes, I'm sure that would Kent
Okay.
show him where we were and what it was. It wasn't working completely. So Kent and I have talked about some other strategies to go through and
Yeah.
I've shared it with
And
him.
I think it's consistent with you're asking to have, items identified as, here's the list and here's our hope in next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, of things that we want to be looking at.
And with the facilities, the strategic plan, I don't think we have 5 years to think and do something about Litchfield Elementary. It's empty now, maybe down. So we have to do something. We have to make a goal by, set a goal, self-imposed goal of doing something with it. We talk a lot about it.
That was the next time I left, so
Okay.
that was a good segue, yes. There's 2 parts with that to me. There's, obviously the facility itself, but there's also the remaining equipment that's in there. There's some things that are worth, profit to us. So I guess that was another piece to be saying. We also have some extra furniture at the intermediate, the elementary school, both intermediate and primary, that has been accumulated and kind of stored in an area that no one is able to use. But instead of it being just not usable, looking at, having that be something that we can also for someone else to be able to give us some money for and be able to use it that way versus having it be sitting there and just not working, not being available to us. Is that something that you would like me to put together a little plan and present that as well in the next meeting or two?
Surplus items.
The financial advisory has looked at this,
Okay.
and we went out to 3 different companies, and none of them were interested in doing any kind of public auction because they said it wasn't worth it.
Okay.
Now, I did contact, I believe the Career Center had somebody where they donated all of that extra and it went overseas somewhere.
Okay.
And so I contacted them for their name to see if the board was interested in donating.
Don't we have to, in a new policy, offer it to community schools first now?
Yeah, we don't have any community schools in our district.
Oh, they have to be in the
Yeah.
district, okay.
Yes.
I'd like to go through, I know the board went, the last time the board went through it, I mean, I marked down a lot of items and gave it to Brian because, I mean, this is just from the kitchen alone, there's lots of money in that kitchen. And I know a lot of restaurant supply companies would come in, probably not an auction. Well, I mean, you can get companies, I don't know which ones you did, but I'd say the most money in that building is probably in the kitchen. You know, with, you know, there was a pizza oven in there was this deep fryers, if I remember. There was a Hobart mixer. I mean, that stuff retains value. It's a decent amount of money. And there's a hood system in there too, obviously. Not to mention
And
numerous walk-ins with numerous,
And the one,
yeah.
the one person on our financial advisory gave me a name to contact, you know, and
Well, there's a guy right up here. I mean, in Medina that does this stuff. I've got a few people too, and I also know quite a few people that own restaurants that would be looking for stuff like that. So.
Do we want to, the Hobart mixture and all that stuff, absolutely, a piece of it, but the stuff that's like the hoods and, we want to hold off on unloading that first before we might go with the building, because we're going to dismantle the whole kitchen. You got 4 walls, and somebody, it takes the value of somebody that wants to buy it, and they can use the kitchen, but they got to come in and put all hoods in and stuff like that. Get rid of this, the non-fixed items.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, yeah. I mean, but that does, I mean, it depends on who's buying the building. If it's.
What it's going to use for.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what happened to it, but I know a potential brewer was looking at the building. I don't know, I gave Brian's name and information where they would use a little bit of that stuff, but not much. But it was a home brewing business that wanted to expand, that was looking to get a little bit bigger. They're coming from Lorraine County. So, but if someone like that moves in that can actually use those facilities to cook, then that's a big deal.
I think we got to know what we're going to do with the facility. You know, that's part of what we got to push. We're going to try to sell it, we're going to lease it, or what?
tried to sell it with Gershbacher's, and, you know, maybe what we, you know, is go for a public auction, set an amount.
But that was part of the public auction, and we had people came and talked to us about doing an auction or selling it. From, what was that real estate agent that came out to us? Charlie Hannah. We had a meeting where somebody came and talked to us about real estate people at the elementary school. And I don't think, it wasn't really an issue with the value of the building or what we wanted to sell it for, and we had to go to the township trustees first, there's some rules.
Yeah, you have to offer it to trustees if they don't want it.
At a certain amount, the amount
Right.
they want.
And yes,
Have we done that yet?
yes,
And they said no.
yes,
So our hands are washed from that.
correct. The charter schools, there aren't any.
Okay.
So you offered to the government entities first, which is the other thing that Brian had done was the drug,
The drug treatment facility.
Yes.
looked at it.
yes, and, you know, I mean, everyone keeps saying it's too far out there.
You know, the career centers, across your space, they have their house space. And they got so many students out there bursting to see, maybe we can, I'd rather see us let somebody use it for free, that's another government agency or a nonprofit. That runs it empty, let them absorb some of the costs and bring it.
And we spend approximately $30,000
A year.
a year. Just in the utilities.
And that's not upkeep.
Yeah, and we're not gonna be.
Which that's gonna go way down now, though. The utility should go down, because, I mean, the rent was just a very low sum. Now, the building should be sealed now, where we're not going in there, the lights aren't being used, the water's not being run. We should do some things from a maintenance, especially as winter approaches, where our cost should go way down on that. I mean, we want the heat to be on at 65 probably, and that's about
And
it.
maintenance should have that building winterized now.
Yeah.
If nobody's gonna use it, it should be before it gets too late, we burst pipes and go.
And I do think we should put a minimal alarm system in that building, which is not gonna cost much at all.
Couple motion detectors in some hallways.
Yeah, that's all you need.
You can buy them online. I'll get a telephone email or a cell phone call. Do we have a picnic somewhere?
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen, if we don't do something over it, it's gonna fall apart. And that way, it really stumbling block, Ken will talk more about this, because the amount of money that we probably owe on the building, or we've invested in it, we're not gonna be part of that themselves. But for every year that we put $30,000 into it, and the value of the building keeps going down because of maintenance and break-ins and vandalism.
I think the value actually might have, I mean, just because property value went up, I mean, the land's probably worth more now than it was 10, 12 years ago. And I don't think we're losing too much. I mean, it's what they want for the land eventually, but the land's reaching its value. The building, probably about the same. I mean, I look at I mean, it's locations of the Mason building that the city bought for, $250,000 to spend 50 grand to knock it down, then they're gonna flat part. So, but there was a need there, and it was a location, and eventually there'll be a need there as well. I just don't think we should be spending 30 grand a year for utilities with an empty building. That seems way too high. I mean, heat's about it. We can probably turn all the water off. Now that no one's using the building, and winterize the toilets.
I don't know if you have a fire system, is a dry system in there, or a water system?
Sprinkler, we do an alarm.
A fire alarm. We can keep it,
We have to keep to a certain temperature because
Just
of
a
that.
phone.
let's do 65.
The other thing is, the sewer plant that we had out there, we have, maintenance out there every month for that, so if we're not going to use that, then I believe,
What's the maintenance for that every month, if the toilets aren't being used?
it's for them to go out and just maintain it, the actual septic system. It's a flat fee, and I can go and find out.
And then that's not pumping or anything, that's just going out there inspecting it. Couldn't we get certified to do that ourselves and save that money? Our maintenance people do that? How much money do we spend each month on that?
I can,
What's involved with the inspection?
and I don't know.
And has maintenance ever went with them to see what they do?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
How does we look up the lid and say, yep, it's a septic system?
No, it's opening the lid, seeing if it's full, and whether it needs to be emptied, and whether there's any blockage there, that's it.
I think we could be certified for that and save this district a lot of money.
I check mine every month. Can I get certified?
And I don't know if we signed a 3-year contract with that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's been going on, because we gotta be in the 3-year piece of that, we had to sign 3 years. Because that was several years ago, we had an issue.
I don't, I
Inspected.
mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact dates.
So we'll look into that. We'll come up with a couple options and present that. Yeah. Okay. The security, just something that I do want to focus on as we are going forward with for the other buildings at this time. The typical scenario is that you have cameras and motion sensors around the building, which we have motion sensors that are pretty effective, except this building here, I think, has had some drops that have not been, it said that the monitors maybe not, are too sensitive, they're not calibrated as well as they can be now. And so when we had our security guy come in here last week, he talked about having the different cameras available, and it sounds like some of the cameras we already have in our buildings will do well with the high def, that they don't have to replace all those, but we're doing some, the idea is that with technology today, you can access the video cameras from your home on your iPhone, your iPad, whatever. Even with the system that he was talking to us about, even talks about the opportunity to turn alarm on or off at home remotely instead of having to come out here and see what's going on. If you have one drop, you can turn the camera on and see what's going on. It has night vision capabilities. They're pretty. It's a lot different than what they have been. So that's something that I am pursuing. We don't have cameras set out throughout the buildings in the junior high and the elementary buildings. That's something that has been mentioned with our deputy Gerard in regards to being able to identify situations that have occurred in the hallways and be able to have that tracking ability to determine who was in that area, who might have gone to the bathroom and done that activity in there that has caused us some damage or cost. So that's something that I'll be bringing to you in the future, but I just wanted you to be aware that's definitely something that needs to be addressed and updated. Having things that happen out in the transportation, we don't have cameras out there, so we'll be putting cameras out there as well, and linking everything up to one system, so we can manage it from one site, or multiple people can manage it from one site.
In the future, we can talk about this in the executive session. We're committed to. That probably should all be, because it's
Sure.
bad public safety.
Sure. Next item is we're starting to look at the future and planning things out. One of the things that I've experienced here is that we have a number of different bucks that we look at. We have a number of different colors of orange and brown, and in our rooms or in our buildings we have a number of different colors. And some of that is because we've had individuals paint versus the district painting. My thought is that one of the things that should help us maintain our facilities a little bit better is if we had maybe 3 to 5 colors that we identify as these are the colors we use in our buildings, so that if there's a nick on that wall, I don't need to go find out which gallon it is and go through 3 different gallons. If you go buy 1 gallon to make some improvements to the paint, that would be just 3 or 4 or 5 colors. So I guess what I'm saying is that one of the things that might come out of this strategic plan, or at least something that we want to talk about, is to identify what orange color is the color that we want, what brown color is what we want. I mean, from my experience, we are when I was at Brunswick, we had 2 colors. We had gardenia and we had Brunswick blue. And when I first went there, Brunswick blue wasn't the color it is now. We bought new trash cans, and somebody said that is the perfect color. And we took the trash can to Sherwin-Williams and we matched up the color, and that was then the Brunswick color. So I guess what I'm saying is we have a number of oranges. I know you made a comment one time about all the different color orange shirts that you saw in the group that was there. Not that we have to mandate all that, but I think as we're moving forward and making some improvements, it might be beneficial for us to at least not have to decide which buck we're using, or if we're using the B. Again, from my experience is that when we went through the change with our facilities at Brunswick, we went from the devil, which was used on everything, to just the elongated B. And so the B has now become like the trademark of, it's on our letterhead, it's on everything at Brunswick. And so just trying to be consistent of saying, how do you think we want to move forward with that? Is that something you want a committee to look at? Is that maybe part of one of the areas of the strategic plan as far as school spirit group maybe looks at? I mean, how would that be best to?
That sounds like a good idea. I mean, it's all about branding.
Yep.
You want people to say, oh, Buckeye, just by. So, yeah, I think that'd be great for the strategic plan group.
And I'll work on that if no one else wants to, because and there should be a file somewhere. If not, I have it.
Okay.
Because we talked about that. So, but I have a lot of the PMS colors for the oranges and the browns and all that.
Okay.
So there is stuff like that.
Okay.
And that, the logo and the coloring on the shirts, and that's probably for the strategic plan, also for facilities, where we're going to paint all over the walls.
Yes.
It has to be consistent, because you just buy 5 cans of paint, and that's all you buy. You don't.
Yeah.
I'll bet you go and make the shop. Did they paint Yeah, all different colors in there.
Yeah.
It's just ways and dollars.
Even for our small restaurant, they had Sherwin-Williams, they had like PJ Marley's taupe, they had the PJ Marley's brown, they had PJ Marley. So we have 3 cans of paint basically that we use for our building.
So that's it, like ceiling white,
Yeah.
wall paint, and trim paint, yeah, that's it.
And you know, just, and I think I mentioned to you, and I've heard it from a few parents and kids, and I'm not, but I mean, at one of the buildings, we repainted, and it looks like, you know, a bright orange and a seafoam green. What is that? You know,
So the hard part is then when you
Yeah.
put tape up and you pull it off and, okay, now what color was that? And you
Yeah.
have it, you know, and now, if it's been a couple of years, you don't necessarily know if the person retired or if they left. Now you're like, what color did you use when you painted your room? It ends up being more work at some point,
Yeah.
potentially, if it's
we
not
should be able to
done.
walk in the maintenance room and there should be 4 or 5 gallons of paint, and that's it.
Okay.
And that one, keep it very simple, and then the branding thing, I agree with that. I mean, you should be able to see a Buckeye kid 300 yards away, know by the B and the color that that's a Buckeye kid, so.
Is part of your strategic plan, do you have a Buckeye Pride or?
It's called School Pride and Spirit.
That's a perfect committee for that.
Yeah, and actually that's the one that I'm chairing, so, yeah, that's something that I think would fit in there well.
I remember when Brunswick was getting rid of their devil.
Well, and when you look at some of those things, like as it was with the field logo, you really don't have a lot of definition on the field. It kind of starts to blur together. So if you have too much of a lot of lines in your design, so it's some of those things are, you kind of look at it from how you're going to use it, and it kind of determines what your choices are. Next one is the full-time substitute discussion or building sub. With the new, I can't remember now the abbreviation of the new law, but the,
How volunteer.
yes, thank you, the ACA. The requirements for our employees, like a substitute teacher, we don't have them currently employed, but some of the districts do. Cloverleaf is one of them. They have a building sub that reports every day to that building, and they're the first one that's taken by an absence in that building. Daryl Cabillas, the superintendent, said, would we be willing to maybe do something with them in regards to saying, because we have subs in every building every day, that we would share subs so that the subs, the ones that are constantly being called for each of us, would have a position every day somewhere. If they're in Buckeye for 5 days, then they start to be
We blocked them. They can't.
right. But if they, in a traditional way, we had no limitation how many days they work, except it would affect their pay. Now we have to turn our subs that we have relationships with and that know what's going on in our classroom. They're not going to somewhere else or not working because we have to break their employment. Otherwise, we get stuck with the ramifications of the ACA. So they're talking about having what Mr. Cabillas asked was, would we be willing to maybe share our subs to where we would still have good quality subs in our buildings, but we're keeping those subs moving from 3 days this week here, 2 days there, and we get 2 days of their subs. They get to keep their subs for 3 days, type of thing. To me, the difference there would be is that we would be hiring a building sub to do that versus just randomly sending subs their way. I don't know if that's something that you have ever thought of before, or when I've talked with the administrators, they said they certainly have a need for subs every day. Obviously, if there is a rare time that they don't have a sub, they would be used for small group instruction, intervention, that type of thing, used in the building itself, or maybe go to another building, that needs a sub. But they would be the first ones that would be called. It wouldn't be an additional person that's just waiting in case someone gets sick during the day. They would be the first person called for that building.
And have we had any problems with our existing system the way we're going right now?
It doesn't appear to be.
No, now we put in a new system, HR kiosk, for our absences. I'm not sure how this would work, but Cloverleaf has the HR kiosk also, so I was going to talk to the treasurer there and say, okay, how can we work this out? There's nothing stopping those building subs that they have from going on our system, they're in our system already, so they can pick up jobs for the other 2 days. It's just that they want it guaranteed. I'm not sure how we can get them to be the first ones called, because we've been telling our teachers, if you want a specific sub in your classroom, you need to put them on your preferred and your favorite list. We're going to now change the rules if we do this. I mean, on someone is what I guess I'm trying to say.
Refresh my memory. So if we wanted to have someone 5 days a week here, what would the additional cost be?
Family coverage, $25,000 a year.
Okay.
And that we would save right now, because they're just coming and going. They're
We don't have that.
Correct.
Right, we don't have that. They can only work 4 days a week.
And what would be the benefit? I mean, it seems the benefit is getting
Our
that
preferred
next
subs.
day. Yeah. I don't know.
It'd be getting our preferred subs for the two
Wow.
districts, yes.
But I mean, do we have a problem? Because our sub list is huge, isn't it?
It's,
And I'm just wondering, there's a lot of them that are local too, right? So, I mean, and that's my question, is how would this affect them? And if we did anything, the one thing I want to do, you know, is ask our subs that we use a lot, is this something that they think will benefit them as well? And help us, ask our teachers as well, because I mean, my first thought is, how far is it to drive to Cloverleaf? It's what, 20 minutes? So, I mean, and maybe it's a great idea, but maybe they'd rather do it with Medina, you know, where it's a 10-minute drive.
I mean, there's a lot of subs that come to Buckeye, they want to come to Buckeye. They don't, I mean, they've said that.
And that increased person is just 25,000 for that one person. And then there's days, and so you would have 3 buildings or 4 buildings, so you'd be 100,000.
Well, but
If we did building subs.
Yeah, if we
for
did
the
building
building.
subs. But if we split with Cloverleaf, we wouldn't have to pay.
What he's trying to do is say 3 days there, 2 days here.
So that
If we change it,
25,000 gets divided.
There would be no 25,000, because neither of us would give them a contract, which I guess I don't understand. Neither of them would give them a contract, or, you know, we wouldn't give them a contract. They would just be a substitute, but they would just be guaranteed 5 days a week.
Right, so this helps them, not really doesn't.
At this point, we are not aware that we're not able to get subs.
I don't think you're gonna have a problem with it.
We did last year, but we made some adjustments to our system because we were, and what usually happens is when the economy's good and everybody's working, there aren't that many subs out there. So we did have a problem at the beginning or in the middle of last year. We tweaked the system a little bit. You know, we were not allowing certain people to get called is what was happening, and now, you know, they wanted it loosened up a little bit, and we did. And they haven't complained, but
Maybe it's something that you should kick the can on for a while.
Yeah,
and
see if we have a problem, yeah.
That increased cost out of it.
Well, it wouldn't be an increased cost. The idea is that by us turning them away on that 5th day, we have to then find another sub that traditionally would have been that person.
Right.
And in years past, that has been a problem at some point where there's not enough subs. And so then that classroom wouldn't have a sub, we have to period sub it or some other, you know, situation. So
So Cloverleaf wants to go from a 5-day building person to a 3-day building person, and they say, you take it for 2 days, we got it for 3,
Yes.
and then they get no benefits.
correct.
Does Cloverleaf currently use 5-day people?
I don't believe they've
no, they've gone to the 4 too.
Yeah.
But they want to go to 3 and 2, but we really like you, Barb. We want to guarantee you 5 days so that you.
Yeah, when you have a good sub, you want to
Absolutely.
keep them available as much as possible, so it's.
So I mean, with us going 4 days and them going 4 days, we're gonna lose 1 day.
So those good people, you put them on referral on the list and, you know, give them a AAA rating that they get the call first, they're gonna rate them.
Yeah.
And you essentially get the same thing done.
There's not ratings in HR kiosk, is there?
We
I
have
mean, we have
preferred
to-
and favorites.
Okay. Those
and
are all picked by the teachers, correct?
by the substitutes. Well, picked by the teachers on who they want on that list. And when the teacher calls in sick, I'm gonna use that, it immediately, they go into the system, it immediately goes to HR and ASAP. And if they have a favorite 5, and they have a preferred list. If a preferred person sees it before their favorite 5, the preferred person can take it. If nobody sees it, then it calls their favorite 5.
Right now, say you have a grade 7, Mrs. B, Mrs. Buckeye, okay? And you can have her 4 days a week now.
Yeah.
Okay, but now if we work with Cloverleaf, you only get Mrs. Buckeye for 3 days a week, and you're getting Mrs. Cloverleaf for 2 days, or Mr. Cloverleaf
Yes.
for 2 days. So you're actually,
Or if we did 4 and 1, I mean,
Yeah.
I think if, it would make sense to do 4 and 1 if we, unless there's a reason to do 3 and 2, but that was just what he proposed.
I guess you'd have to think about, some of the things John maybe mentioned that, are the subs interested in this?
Yeah.
Is this important to them? And then, I don't wanna say no, but I just wanna say, the people involved, does it make sense to them to do it? I mean, it sounds in theory like it would help us all, but if the subs aren't willing to do that.
if they don't want to drive to Cloverleaf, or just don't want to,
They like working 4 days a week, I don't know.
Right, but yeah.
I would be the only subs that will be there, those will be the Cloverleaf subs, because they're gonna lose their benefits.
Well, they don't have them.
Yeah, they
now.
haven't had him in the past.
So I just said, yeah, they're paying them now, 5 days a week.
No, they're only doing 4 days a week.
Okay,
But they want to lock them
They
in
want-
so that,
so then they would have benefits, they have 5 days a week. Or when you were a teacher in the classroom, how much education have with substitutes?
Quite a bit. I think, in the elementary, they
Business
have
as
good
usual.
subs, they come in, they're good. I think it's harder sometimes at the high school because of the content. If you don't get a sub who understands that content, then it might be harder. But, you had good subs. There were ones that you just wanted all the time because they were good. I mean, the key was not to be absent because it always was more work to be absent. So the key was not to be absent. But we have some good subs out there that do a great job.
Okay. So we'll just see how that goes. Okay. I did want you to be aware that you may or may not have been aware that the district calendar has not been approved for next year yet. We're a little bit behind on that. I guess the situation was that the Career Center had kind of been the person that ran that, and when he retired in December, it kind of got lost. And now they're going to be bringing that back around here, I think this next month, that the Career Center is going to be organizing some meetings. And so we'll be getting some calendars out hopefully before Christmas for the next school year. So I do know that's late, but there's a reason for it. And
The calendar for this one.
for next school year. For
Okay, I was gonna say, we already approved that.
Yeah, for 17-18.
Okay, has there been any discussion on the state level about the length of summer vacation? I heard that there's some conversation with some committees, that school not starting until Labor Day.
That's been going on for years though, hasn't it?
I've heard
Yeah.
some conversation.
It comes up all the time, but I don't think they'll go anywhere with it. Then the reason is testing. All these schools have moved to an earlier start to get as much instruction in as possible before testing. And so I don't see that getting any.
For the record, I'm opposed to starting before Labor Day. August 15th, 16th.
It's his pet peeve.
Yeah, I think August 18th, it should be on summer vacation, so.
Yeah, no, it's.
Enjoy the summer, listen to a ball game on the radio.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the backyards. Pet peeve.
The next item I have is a additional thing here as well. It's called the Remind app. We have a Remind app is something that we're going to be implementing here hopefully today by the end of the week, where parents will be given, I'll send an email out to everybody where they can text a message to a number, and that Remind app comes back and allows Roger to be able to say to everybody that's affected, maybe at the primary building, he'll have a group text that will go out and says that bus 29 is late, for whatever reason, versus a call. There's something as a text sent. It's a free app, something that's pretty simple to work. So we're gonna try that and see if we can maybe get better communication out to our families. There's been some things that happened. Yesterday we had a train that was stuck on tracks for a number of hours, and it just delayed us, and they kept telling Roger, we're moving it, and so they decided to wait, and it just ended up being, an unacceptable amount of time. So, but we couldn't get that message out as quickly or as effectively as we wanted to. We posted on Facebook, but not everybody is gonna have access or thinking, oh, I should just check Facebook.
The reminder, that's not a two-way back and forth texting, is it?
No, it's, you basically just,
Some people are already using it now.
Classroom teachers.
Classroom teachers, some of the coaches have.
The coaches.
yeah. So it makes sense to do it and just get information out there as soon as we know something. So that'll be coming. And then I think you've already answered my question, but the state report card, I was going to do a little bit of a presentation to you on at the next October board meeting. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
And probably Dr. Collins will be a part of that as well. And I think
Included in that comments, just digging into that greatly, comparing it apart and having some of its interesting analytics up there. So how they're looking at it. It's almost a different article every day. That
Yeah.
comes out on the
Yeah.
state report.
so. Sometimes it's just best to wait and see, let it all settle, and then we can take a better perspective on it. So yeah, it's not. I think those of us that understand, the difficulty in comparing different assessments from year to year, it's hard to look at one letter grade and compare it to another letter grade and say, oh, that means, we don't really know what that means necessarily just because of the letter grade. We have to do a little more digging on that.
We should never put one out this year.
Yeah, I agree.
With the change in assessments, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's frustrating. That is all I have.
What about the bullying reports?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I did miss that. Bowling reports, was asked for the bowling reports, and there have been no reports that have been identified as bullying at any of our buildings. That's basically the report that we have to submit each year, is to say how many were actually bullying, how many, what the results were of that. So does that mean that we never have any complaints of bullying? No, that just means that when it's kind of a buzzword at times where people say we have bullying going on, but then once we investigate that, it doesn't necessarily meet the measure of the term for bullying, but we do address that, and there's consequences given, as appropriate. But I think that answers the question, at least in regards to what the official, bullying report has shown.
We have none this year, you said?
Correct. Well, from last year, I didn't.
Oh, really? Okay.
As far as ones that were determined to be bullying, I'm not saying there wasn't harassment that were issues, or that someone was being picked on, or but when we just use the word bully, a lot of times it doesn't fit the definition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's not something we should be made aware of, or that we shouldn't address it. But as far as the official bullying definition, it does not fit that definition, and does not fit the reporting requirements that goes along with that.
Okay. Item 12, executive session. Need for executive session for A2, employment. And I was going to add E on that too. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. I'll second. Roll call.
Siselic,
Yes.
Stahl,
Yes.
Dunkelman,
Yes.
Mattson.
Yes.
And the time is 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.